in the last few weeks of the campaign, you've got a big platform here on the debate stage by bringing, being able to share a libertarian philosophy with a statewide audience. So what are you doing in the last few weeks of the campaign to kind of get people to consider maybe a libertarian candidate in what is an overwhelmingly Republican district?
Right. Well, we have several events scheduled. We're actually going to do a candidate forum down at Dixie State. Well, I take that back. It was planned for in person. They moved it online, but there's something planned, I guess, for Wednesday evening at Dixie State. I'll be open basically to other kinds of meet the candidate events, whether just interacting through social media and that kind of thing. There's still some time, so I'm open to engaging with voters as much as possible. But my campaign website, forutahns.com, forutahns.org, they both work. That's a place where people can learn more about my take on the issues and my positions. And so I don't know that there's much more that I can add to that. But some people ask questions, and I'm happy to engage them as opportunities present themselves. Like Mr. Weston, I'm also a working candidate, so I do have other obligations going on as well. So I am limited in my ability to go out and do the traditional thing. This district, by the way, I think is very liberty-minded. So, that obviously I think is one of the big reasons I'm here, is because people support that, and they recognize that there's a difference between the Libertarian Party and its platform and what used to be a platform of the Republican Party. I think they've got their commitment with America and the Democratic platform. So, but again, I'll work with anybody who helps move our country in a more liberty-minded direction.
Still, though, libertarian ideology is closer to Republican than Democrat, I think most would say.
Most would say that, but I would take issue with that, because I think sometimes on certain issues we will outflank.
But there are clearly libertarians in Utah who run for office under the Republican banner.
Well,
I can't think of any who do the opposite.
I think you're correct.
My question for you, though.
Sure.
How do you differ from Representative Stewart?
Well, I think the big one, and it's unfortunate we didn't talk about this tonight, but it's foreign policy. I am very concerned with this China task force, that what's going on is the Republican Party in particular is beating the drum for a war with China, which of course would just be a global disaster. It's said, James Madison said that when the political class senses some kind of apprehension among the populace, then they excite a war to distract the masses from that. And I worry because we are in somewhat troubled waters right now. That's what's going on to distract us from really solving the problems that, then again, I call it the oligarchy that is exploiting, oppressing the rest of us, whatever you want to call it, from making those changes that can democratize and decentralize power. So I wish we would have talked more about foreign affairs and military intervention. I'm all for Americans being defended, but in America. So I want us to have a strong military, but be neutral like Switzerland. So armed but neutral.
Back to this idea of the libertarian ideology here in the state of Utah. You mentioned a lot of people in this district have that liberty mindset. I think it is strong across the state of Utah, but the party doesn't necessarily match up with the strength of the ideology. Why do you think libertarians, instead of joining the party and making it stronger, are Republicans or members of other parties?
It's a great question, and it's another issue I wish we would have talked about tonight. I did have it there in my notes, but it's our electoral system. And so I call myself a recovering Republican, being born and raised in Utah, and then I discovered libertarianism and moved that way. If you remember, former State Senator Mark Madsen was a Republican and then came over to the Libertarian Party during his last term in office. But the electoral system, so we have this thing called the first-past-the-post plurality system, and generally in play, a two-party system, and then everybody else is marginalized. In most of the world's democracies these days, they have some kind of proportional representation system, multi-member system, and the Fair Representation Act would actually help move the United States in a more diverse direction. And when you do that, you get more women elected, you get more racial minorities elected. A fun thing that just happened, so New Zealand uses proportional representation, so does Ireland, I think, and Australia. And they just had their national elections. The libertarian counterpart over there in New Zealand, they're called the ACT Party. They received 8% of the vote, So they get 8% of the seats in their 120-member National Assembly. So that's 10 seats. So that means that we don't get a majority, but at least we get some seats at the table and a voice, and we can contribute to the policy discussion. So also ranked choice voting is another reason, right? We want to get rid of the ranked choice system. And that's why these voting systems will prevent gerrymandering, which has been a problem in Utah. And again, it will prevent that wasted vote argument. Unfortunately, that's why a lot of incumbents don't want that kind of thing, because that wasn't the system that helped elect them.
So what
Are there any questions from Zoom? Apparently not.
Zoom silence.
So what do you hope that viewers took from this tonight about libertarianism, again, given that it's maybe a lot of people's first exposure to it?
I hope they realize that it's an option that they ought to consider, and that it's making progress. I mean, those of us who have been involved, the party is started in the 1970s. Actually, Utah was one of the early places where the Libertarian Party started. And those of us recognize that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're building on our progress. And it's been encouraging. We didn't also talk about our national candidate, Jo Jorgensen. She's on the ballot in all 50 states. She's the first woman to be on the ballot in all 50 states in 2 election cycles. We have the first millennial, Spike Cohen, her running mate, who's on the ballot in all 50 states, the first millennial to be on the ballot in all 50 states. And they're recognizing at their national campaign that most of their volunteers are coming from other parties or independents, and we're not libertarians. So I think most people, again, I think the Gallup poll shows that most Americans want a third party. Well, guess what? We're the libertarians. We're the nation's 3rd largest party. Check us out. We're on lp.org. You can call the 1-800 number, 1-800-ELECT-US, to learn more.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, gentlemen.
What was your reaction to Chris Stewart's response that fiddling with the court, the Supreme Court, would be a fringe idea and dangerous?
It was a little overdone. I mean, because of course there has been court packing schemes in the past. So unfortunately, there is historical precedent for doing that. But it bothers me. I mean, I guess I didn't express my concern. I mean, it is what it is. So if it's there, we manage it, but it's not something I want. I don't think we need to expand the Supreme Court, and I'm troubled, like I think a lot of people are, that Joe Biden and his running mate won't take that off the table. Thank you.